And good afternoon for those of you tuning in on 10 on the Deck Productions on YouTube. I'm $2 Phil Brilo bringing you the action here. CCIW Women's Bowling Conference Championship. We're going to kick things off here with the semifinal match. They are in their last 5 minutes or so of practice. Number 2 Augustana versus number 6 seed Carthage. We'll let you know how those teams made their way through the 7-team CCIW bracket last Saturday when the opening rounds of play took place. And the winner of this match, it's a standard 5-player team game for the semifinal match, will move on against Marian University out of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And that match will be a combination of the 5-player team game and then 5 Baker games will be rolled as well. That 10-game total could determine the CCIW champion, unless Marian loses the first championship match. They are undefeated after bracket play last week. And with this double elimination format for the CCIW Women's Bowling Championship, they will need to lose twice in that 10-game format, 5-player team game, 5 Baker games, in order to give up their chance at the conference title. Let the players finish their practice. We will have starting lineups for you momentarily. And we'll be underway with the semifinal match in Castle Lanes in Racine. CCIW Women's Bowling Championship semifinal round. Pattern the players are attacking today is the NCAA pattern number 3. They've kept things pretty simplified in NCAA women's bowling for patterns, 5 patterns to choose from. And of course, for those of you that are regulars in the bowling alley and get to see the oiling machine goes down lane, no matter what type of oiling machine you have, the NCAA has it covered for making the patterns, those 5 patterns, as similar as possible. This pattern, 40 feet in length. It has a total of about 24.65 mils of oil. And as you're going to see, a lot of these ladies playing out here today with this ratio only being about 2.7 to 1. You see a ball escape outside a 6th or 7th board, and you may actually see that ball reach the gutter depending on the type of initial projection the lady has releasing it. You're going to see a lot of players going straight up 6th, 7th, 8th board. A player with a little more rev rate could get a little farther inside. And in many cases, for these strike balls, you're going to see a tad bit of surface on them unless the bowler has really slow ball speed. And once again, polyester going to be in play for a lot of the spare making. I only saw the opening round last Saturday here at Castle Lanes a couple of players that did not use polyester for their spares. And we'll be getting the starting lineups from the coaches momentarily. And we should be underway, and we're in our last 2 minutes of practice.
as your 15 minutes of practice is up, I'd say this would be the last ball if you're going to throw one. Oh, that's straight.
If everyone could please rise and stand, remove your hats for the national anthem. Thank you.
All right, coaches are giving last-minute instructions to their players. After the national anthem, we should be underway momentarily. And we will provide you the starting lineup here for Carthage College. Your leadoff player is going to be Emily Catalano. Melissa Barnett in the number 2 spot for Carthage. Number 3, Mariana Christakos in the 3 spot. Emma Topham in the 4 spot, and bringing things down at anchor, Cassie Highland for Carthage. We'll get you the Augustana lineup momentarily. And for the Augies, as you see on the back of their jerseys, Augustana, your leadoff. Alex Buffington, a senior. Abigail Clark in the new number 2 spot out of Twin Lakes, Wisconsin. Mina Garner in the 3 spot. Alexis Munch in the 4 spot. and the senior bring up the number 5 spot, Taylor Keese out of Oswego, Illinois. A couple of seniors in the starting lineup for Augustana. And a young lineup for Carthage, only one upperclassman, that being their number 2 player, Melissa Barnett, being a junior. All other players in the lineup as the lucky backdoor strike that will get fixed on the scoreboard for Alex Buffington. Once again, we'll keep reminding you of the players' names in the lineup. Know that we're going with the numbers and letters on the scoreboard, but that's in case there's substitutions by the players as well. Carthage, you won't see any substitutions. They only have 5 here for their lineup, but got 8 players for Augustana. Actually make it 9. They have 4 players in reserve here this afternoon. Early open by Catalano for Carthage. On the single pin, there were quite a few. It's been a rash of single pins missed everywhere on TV, live streaming, such nowadays. You saw quite a few during the PBA World Series of Bowling on the Fox and Fox Sports 1 shows. And once again, a lot of these players here at the Division III level for women's bowling, and another missed single pin, and that's just nerves right now. I mean, Carthage coming in underdog in their own house. They came in as a 6th seed here in the CCIW Women's Bowling Conference Championship. Last week, Carthage took down. And another big break to start things early for Augustana. Carthage took down Elmhurst in the opening round. Elmhurst was a 3 seed. Carthage took them down 944 to 892 in that 5-player team game. And then Carthage and Augustana met in the second round of this event last week. Augustana came out on top, 822 to 752. Carthage then was dropped into the contenders bracket. And with 2 wins in the contenders bracket against North Central and a tight match against Aurora that came down to the anchor player on both teams in the 10th frame for Aurora and Carthage. Just 9 pins, the difference in that Carthage win to advance to this semifinal match. Augustana had 1 round longer in the winner's bracket, and another single pin miss. Hope to see those nerves go away quickly for these players. Yes, Augustana took down Illinois Wesleyan in the opening match, 749 to 590. And we mentioned the win against Carthage in round 2, and then the 2nd seed Augustana took on Marian University in the finals of the winner's bracket last Saturday here at Castle Lanes, and Marian came out on top by 80 pins, 917 to 837. And that's why you have Marian waiting in the wings to see who they will take on in the championship round. And once again, Marian undefeated to this point, so they would have to lose twice in that championship round to give up the CCIW Conference Championship title. And this is not the way you want to start any type of collegiate meet, whether it's your first one of the year or for your conference championship. The way Carthage University is rolling right here, as they have 3 single pin misses out of 4 attempts in the first frame. And slow roller not going to be enough for Cassie Highland. Highland threw a big clutch strike first ball of the 10th frame last week against Aurora to knock Aurora out of the event and move Carthage into this semifinal round. And thanks to that effort as well, Cassie Highland was named CCIW Women's Bowling Player of the Week for last week. Once again, you'll see the names, pardon me, you'll see the scoreboards change lanes to go along with the teams as well. Now you have Carthage on your left lane, lane 21 here at Castle Lanes, and Augustana now on lane 22. There's several choices for women's NCAA bowling you can watch on live streaming today. I know that the Great Lakes Valley Conference, they're streaming their event out of the St. Louis area. So once we're done here today, you can go ahead and catch that. That's through the Great Lakes Valley Conference network page. You can go to Great Lake Valley Conference Women's Bowling page and find that link. And also the Southland Bowling Conference, another Division I powerhouse conference. They're having their conference championship in Louisiana today. That I know is being streamed on YouTube as well. So you can take a peek for those events once we're done here in Racine. And that should put a little confidence back into Catalano with the cover on the spare. Let's see what Abigail Clark can do here. Clark, a junior. Twin Lakes, she'll be shooting for the spare. Right now we've got Stakos. Pardon me, that was Barnett with the strike for Carthage. This is Clark trying to take down that big split. Takes the 3. Always good to do on the strike. Don't want to lose any pins. We had a couple matches last week decided by less than a mark. And Stakos almost gets the blower 7 to go. And seeing more and more two-handed ladies come to play in the sport of bowling. And with Mina Garner right there, a freshman out of Roselle, Illinois. A little slow on the ball speed for Garner, but that's something as she gets more adapted to the two-handed style. And so much of the power generated from the legs. You look at a Belmonte, you look at a Anthony Simonson, Sean Maldonado, who won this week. They really accelerate getting into the foul line. And even polyester can chop a spare. And the wrap 10 for Topham. Topham. Well, I know who to go to get a good rate on insurance once I'm done with doing this bowling, and she's done with her college career. She's on mathematics, focusing on actuarial science for her major at Carthage. Let's see if she can add up the numbers to take down this 10 pin. She does so successfully. And I think we're starting to see some of the first frame jitters go away for Carthage. Now we just have to see if Augustana can stop the bleeding here with Augustus Munch. And Munch a tad wide right, but the 10 goes down. No need to try to cover a washout. And the lazy 6 just gets the 10 down to Cassie Highland. Highland studying psychology with Spanish and women's gender studies as her minors. She keeps herself busy when she's not out on the lanes. Once again, this is a single 5-player team game match. And Munch across the head of the head pin, and that's 3 opens in a row now for Augustana. That gives a slight lead in this match to Carthage after 2 frames. And you just see, not happy with the ball reaction. And as we said before, this NCAA pattern number 3, not much room for error. Sure, if this was guys on the PBA Tour out here, somebody'd find a way to average 240 on it. But when you're talking 2.7 to 1, a medium volume pattern for these ladies, and not a lot of miss room to either side. And that one was just nerves. You'd see tentative to the foul line compared to her strike shot. That ball speed was easily a 1.5 hours slower, and Keys hooks in front of that 5 pin. And let's see if Alex Buffing can stop the bleeding here for the Augustana team. And there's a strike. Catalano for Carthage. Buffington here, a senior, stepping up for the Vikings. Carthage starting to fill frames now. 2 strikes and a spare so far in the 3rd. Let's see if Garner stepping up for the Vikings. Put another strike on the board. She struck in this lane in the opening frame. And there it goes, 6 into the 10. And not surprising with her rev rate to keep the ball a little straighter and tamer at the end of the pattern, that Garner's using the purple ball that has made a lot of money for some guys on the PBA Tour the last several years. Wonder when they come out with the Buttriff edition of that purple ball. Put his autograph on it. There'd be a lot of people that'd buy it. And the 4-pin stands for Munch. Munch trying to put her first mark on the board of the day. And a great frame there for Carthage. Setting themselves up for some doubles. And that's a good way to space your way out between yourself and your opponents. Put some doubles on the board, make things happen. And right on that 4-pin. Once you get that first mark, get the comfort level and the nerves down a bit. See if Munch can feed off that. And the big thing here, Taylor Keys on the anchor for the Vikings. Keep the frame clean. Yeah, it's outright, and we mentioned in practice this pattern with the lower rev rates the ladies have, they're not going to come back and get washouts on a miss right. Good news for Keys is she didn't lose any count. She was on an open, and she'd probably rather shoot it the remainder of the rack here than shoot at a 1-2-10 combination. Try to fill the frame. A little more on target, and can't get the 7 to go on the blower, and that's a buzzard on the bottom for the Vikings. As we get into frame number 4 of the semifinal match. All right, we got a guest in the booth here. The Assistant Executive Director of the CCIW, the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin, Mike Chrisman. And Mike, first year for women's bowling in the CCIW, and yep. you're the man that got to bring the reins on and steer everything to this championship this year.
Well, I got to give credit to my boss, Maureen Hardy. She's our Executive Director, and her and I both kind of just worked in collaboration in helping to bring bowling to the CCIW. And last summer, she basically said, "I'd like you to, kind of steer that group," and been working with them ever since. And it's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed working with all of our coaches so far.
Yeah, and this has been a heck of a week for your first championships here at Castle Lanes, and some excitement last week, especially in that final match where Carthage pulled it out against Aurora and got themselves to the semifinals here. And is this the first chance you've had to be on site with the event this year because of everything, obviously, with the COVID virus?
It really is. Yes, this last week was the first bowling match collegiate bowling match I got to attend, both in my career and in the CCIW since we first added it. And yeah, you're right. That last match was very exciting. It came down to a nail biter, and it was a blast to watch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, 2020, the 2021 season, pretty challenging. What did you guys do to adjust from what you think you're going to be doing next year once this whole virus thing hopefully goes away by the fall?
So this past year, it was a lot of just try matches within the conference. We split it up in North and South pods, and everybody just played each other in those pods every weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, that was how we did it, and then eventually we allowed all 7 teams to come to the championship. Going forward, we're going to have to talk about that as a group. Don't really know what direction that group wants to go right now. So that's why we need to talk about it, need to iron it out. Being a new sport, there's always going to be a lot of administrative things that need to be checked off the list, and how we're going to structure the conference championship going forward is one of those things.
Yep. And then next year, new teams coming to the conference that I'm aware of. I know that I live by Carroll University in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and Carroll's coming on board with a great former collegiate player that's going to be coaching that team. And is that the only team coming on board for next year for women's bowling?
Yes, Carroll is coming on board next year, so that'll give us nine teams in the CCIW next year. 6 core members, and then 3 associate members. Aurora, Marian, and Lakeland are associate members for bowling. And Carroll will be our 9th and then 6th core team. Excellent.
And there's so many sports that have expanded over the last decade in college athletics. What are the other sports that CCIW has brought on board in the last decade or so?
In the last decade, around 2015, we brought men's and women's lacrosse in. into the conference. Many of our schools had been playing in a single sport conference for both men's and women's lacrosse, and then we decided to form it in around 2015. And then, obviously women's bowling this past year. And then 2 years ago, it was men's volleyball. Men's volleyball was added.
As we see, Carthage, only a couple of marks in that fourth frame, did not take advantage of doubling up just for one player. But then again, seems to be that lane 22, teams are having a little bit more of an advantage of it. Good news for Augustana is they're going to get to finish the match on lane 22 when they get done switching back and forth. And the crowd is filling in here. And of course, we've got Marian University waiting in the wings. They are going to be bowling for the championship in the next match. And you mentioned that they've joined the conference this year as an associate member.
Yes.
And they're going to stay on board, is that?
Yep.
Excellent.
Everybody's staying on board for next year.
Did the teams, have you heard any inklings of, especially with the way the sport's expanding at Division III, of the women getting their own Division III championship? Right now, it's a single championship for NCAA bowling. UW Whitewater has been established for almost 20 years now. I mean, they're the big player in Division III here in the Midwest. But have you heard anything about Division III getting their own championship anytime soon?
So it would have to hit a certain threshold in order for that to happen. There's not enough sports that. Not enough schools that sponsor the sport right now.
Okay.
And it would have to expand to meet a threshold, and then it would be, they would split it up and have a Division III championship. Same thing happened with men's volleyball a few years ago. They were competing within one division, but then enough schools added the sport to be able to get to that point where we were able to do a Division III championship. And in fact, Carthage is, one of the top tier teams in men's volleyball, so it really benefited them.
So taking a peek here, this match, Carthage with the slight advantage of about 20 pins right now. Big trip of the 4-pin for Abigail Clark for the Vikings. Mike, I don't know how familiar you are with bowling, and they're not doing it at college meets, but a lot of time in bowling, if a player leaves just a 5-pin, you'll see a lot of people hold up their hands behind the player, and if the player misses the 5-pin, they have to buy a round of beverages for their team.
Yes,
so.
I have learned a crash course about bowling this year. There's still a lot more for me to learn. I mean, I had no idea there was such a thing as oil patterns that teams practice on and prepare for. So I actually, one of my tasks was to pick an oil pattern for this championship.
Yeah.
So I just basically looked at the NCAA's list, put them in one of those random pinwheels on the web, and spun it a few times, and that's how we came up with the oil pattern we did.
Yeah, I do like the fact that it's just 5 patterns for the ladies in NCAA bowling. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that watch here on YouTube and have followed me on times I've done events in the past on Extra Frame back in the PBA days. Just the plethora of oil patterns that are out there. I think it just makes it makes it simpler for the coaches to deal with equipment, because I assume at the Division III level they're not getting any money from the school to pay for the bowling balls or anything like that. The players are bringing their own equipment to the game.
Just depends on the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know with a lot of club programs that's run through the United States Bowling Congress, some clubs have tie-ins with equipment companies and everything, but that's a little tough to do with NCAA with the rules and regulations, correct? Mm-hmm.
Yes. Compliance was always something that was never really my strong suit. I feel like I'm getting better at it, but not able to give you a play-by-play of the NCAA compliance book, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, it's you got to check every, dot every I, cross every T. Otherwise,
we have very, very, very capable people within our conference that handle the majority of that, and they do an excellent job.
And a good finish, back-to-back strikes for the Vikings by Munch and Keys is going to get.
So have you always been kind of the bowling guy then?
I've done bowling for longer than I like to admit right now. It's been I started in Wisconsin with Time Warner Cable Television and producing bowling shows on there, and then it moved to Spectrum Sports. That was 2007 to 2018. Started working with the PBA in 2014 with their extra frame service, and then a company called Flow Sports out of Austin, Texas took over the digital rights for the PBA on their live streaming back in 2018, and I did that until earlier this year. So I've always done live streaming still with high schools and that type of thing around here. It's the first college event I've done. I'm having fun with it, and you know, these ladies, I mean, you know, Carthage is out here with 4 freshmen and a junior. You know, and they're fighting for the conference championship. And a lot of these programs in CCIW, very young to go with. You don't see, I mean, with the Vikings having 2 seniors on their roster, that's the most of anybody in the conference. That was kind of the surprising part for me, even though with it being a new sport, the CCIW, that there would be a few more upperclassmen in the sport. And it's really developing.
Yep.
Which is great for the coaches. I mean, you get a coach like Katie Zwiefelhofer from Carthage. She's got 4 years to work with these players, and I guarantee you by the time, you know, they get in the next year, if they lose this match by 20 or so pins, she's going to remind them of that first frame. And those single pin misses, quite a lot of emails during the summer.
well, those the vast majority of our programs are about 5 years old or less. Elmhurst has the oldest program. They were established in 2005.
Okay.
In fact, the year I started in the CCIW, Elmhurst established their women's bowling program.
So let's take a look here as that ball skates a little long. Catalano. But once again, with the angles they're playing, we're not going to see too many washouts where they leave that 10 pin in the corner to go with the head pin combination. It's a lot easier shooting at that 8 count or 7 count in the case of Buffington from Augustana. Just don't get too tentative at it. Go directly at it like you saw there for Catalano and get that mark on the board. So any other conference championships coming up for CCIW? Or
yes, actually men's volleyball is coming up in a few weeks.
Okay.
So that'll be held at the highest 2 seeds based on the regular season standings. And then we have a very busy spring coming up with lacrosse, baseball, softball, outdoor track, men's and women's tennis, and men's and women's golf. So it's going to be a lot of traveling in the next month or so.
Yeah. Is golf one of those sports where it's like a little bit in the fall and then the rest of it in the spring? Is that
yes, we play our on the men's side, we play our championship in the spring.
Okay.
The women play their championship in the fall, except they're going to play in the spring this year.
Okay.
So yeah, but they do spend a lot of time competing both in the fall and the spring. Yes, it is a split sport. And in fact, the weather is a lot nicer in the fall for our teams to get their matches in.
And trying to go direct at that 3-6 combo, and the cover made by Barnett. Once again, that largely freshman lineup for Carthage holding tight here in the semifinal match. It's got to be a pretty unique recruiting pitch for these Division III coaches to attract players to their individual schools. I mean, Division I, they're going, hey, we've got this, we've got the $1 million gyms and all the other stuff. You know, for a coach in bowling, I mean, how tough is it for them to recruit against, let's say, a UW Whitewater? It's a public institution, or you know, Division II schools, even like Upper Iowa University or McKendree, which is the defending national champion.
Sure. Well, I think what's a big selling point. I mean, the strength of our conference is very, very strong. It brings a lot of prestige to it. But in another year, we're going to have an automatic qualifier to the NCAA tournament, which is certainly attractive because it gives a path to playing in an NCAA postseason.
Right.
So that's certainly something that's attractive, and that's really the benefit about competing within a conference is getting that AQ, that automatic qualifier, and competing in an NCAA event.
Yeah, I know there's a couple of there's a Division I conference championship at Southland Bowling going on this weekend in Louisiana, and then Great Lakes Valley is having theirs in the St. Louis area for Division II schools. So there's a lot of women's college bowling going on this weekend.
Yep.
And once again, we want to thank the people joining us here on YouTube watching this semifinal match. Stick with us. You got all day tomorrow to watch Great Lakes Valley and Southland. They go 3 days. They're going 3 days with their championships this year, but they're going full. Those girls are going to be tired when they're done because they're doing the full five-player team game, then 5 Baker games, and if they tie those at 1 match apiece, then it goes to a best 4 of 7 Baker to see who advances in the brackets. And I mean, these ladies are with practice balls and stuff. They're throwing 7-8 games a day right now if they're taking the long way through the bracket. So,
well, this will be my first time seeing a Baker match in person.
Oh, it's so much fun.
When we do Baker in the championship in a couple hours.
The squeeze on the bowling balls when they get released sometimes they get a little accentuated because you're not leaning on your own strike, you're leaning on your teammate's strike, and you want to make sure you keep it going. And that messenger just goes to a dead stop for Alexis Munch. And once again, we see the players go into the polyester bowling balls. Shoot the spares.
I guess I just wanted to take a little bit of time to thank Castle Lanes for serving as our host. This place kind of has a old school charm to it. I grew up just across the border in Gurnee. Spent childhood in bowling alleys like this.
Bertrand's? Did you spend a lot of time at Bertrand's?
Bertrand, yep, in Waukegan. Yes, I did. You know, I was never, I was more recreational in bowling and things like that as a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spent a lot of time in those bowling alleys, and this one, Castle Lanes, really reminds me of the places I grew up around. In Cub Scout outings and school outings and things like that.
Yeah, it's the youth program here this morning. It was almost a full house again, and
saw that when I arrived. Yep.
Yeah, they really have things going, and boy, that ball twirled at the head pin for Taylor Keys, but just not enough power to get that 4-8 to go down. And you'll see Marian University off to your side in a couple of minutes. They're going to be able to get some practice in on lanes 17 and 18, but once we get to our championship round match, there's going to be zero practice for both teams. They're going to jump on lanes 19 and 20 and immediately start with scoring. So we'll see what the Marian University coaching staff and players are going to be doing here to get loose and warm up. I'm sure we'll see some stretching, and that's one thing that has got to be a huge advantage for an NCAA Division III bowling program is access to the trainers in the athletic training and weight rooms and that type of thing that a lot of players that participate in the club level may not have access to at their universities.
Yeah, our student athletes are definitely well taken care of.
So into the 7th frame, and this one, Carthage up. Been working on a couple of marks here more than Augustana is, so we're going to give them about a 20-pin lead at this moment. That's the toughest part when you get to these 5-player games and you got to go, okay, they got the spare and the strike and they bring it down.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the math in my head as well as a bowling novice.
We don't. That's the thing. All my years at the PBA was an individual sport or doubles on occasion. Mm-hmm. High school bowling in Wisconsin, all Baker, so you're just worried about the one game. You start getting into these 5-player games and you're trying to do the math in your head and go carry the 3 and square root of 12. Yeah, it can get a little brutal sometimes. So the thing that impresses me though is I could probably go down and ask most of these young players. In high school, you see it a lot where the kids don't know what they need to win, or they don't know what their maximum score is going to be. I think we could ask every one of these ladies down here right now if they, and go, hey, if you struck out, what would your score be? I'm sure they'd probably be able to answer this because I'm sure the coaches have drilled it in their heads.
Oh, I'm sure.
And a great toss there by Abigail Clark. And Clark, she's solid on that lane. She's got 4 strikes. I think she wants to camp out on lane 21. And a little bit more of an adventure. Another single pin miss for Carthage. As Melissa Barnett the only upperclassman on that team with a junior status. With the open, see if Rascos can pick her up, and she does with the big strike. Well, Mike, we're going to give you a little break for now. We're going to drag you back in here during the Baker matches during the championship round because I want to hear a person that's seen it for the first time. I want to let people hear what you think about it and that type of thing. So
yeah, sounds good to me.
Appreciate your time right now, Mike, and that's Mike Chrisman from CCIW. And hey, thanks for putting. It was a rough year for 2020 and 2021 for this bowling season, but the ladies got the whole season in without issues, and I know they're looking forward to next year. I know I'm looking forward to watching it.
Absolutely, me as well. And yep, looking forward to coming back here in a few hours.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
And the scenic route taken by Mina Garner for that spare for the Vikings. As right now, about a 25-pin disadvantage for the Vikings against Carthage. And that's going to get cut down more. Another single pin miss. That's 5 single pin misses for Carthage right now in this game. And this one could be a bit tricky for Alexis Munch with the 7-pin standing. Get that ball to carry down past the 1-2 into the 7, and she doesn't hook it a lot. Normally, you may want to slow that ball speed down a bit if you're Munch. Make the adjustment so the ball carries down off the 2, and the ball carries down into the 7. Needs to get all the way across, and not the way you draw it up normally on the telestrator. But the 1, 2, and 7 go down for Taylor Keys. And another quality spare keeping her line clean. It's Cassie Highland from Carthage. That needs to stay out. And lucky to take the 7 down, just leaving the 1-5 for Keys. Once again, I'm just kind of surprised. I know she's got a little slower ball speed, but surprised about the surface on that bowling ball. It just seems a little too shiny. Like maybe it would have taken some scuff off during practice. And she only has 1 strike through 7 frames in the anchor position, and that gets the 1 and 5 to go. Let me just check the records here. Checking the stats, and yep, Taylor Keys 1 for 1 in the 2021 season on the 1-5 conversion, 100%. Sure she'd like to keep it that way by never seeing it again. And we have 3 frames remaining. And this match, basically a 7-pin match right now, as Carthage 2 open frames on the board. In the 7th, only a single open frame for Augustana. And that needs some help. If you're going to make a mistake, make a big one. Get it all the way across the head pin, and you get a bit of a mix, get a bit of a lucky break. I've often heard people say there's a reason why bowling might not ever be in the Olympics, and a 6th single pin miss this game for Carthage. You know, you can make an errant shot and be rewarded for it in bowling. You don't get to make an errant shot and somehow still hit a bullseye in archery, or make an errant shot off a golf tee. Maybe once in a while you'll hit a tree and bounce back in a fairway, but it's so rare. And the head pin stops the 5 from going over to the 7 for Barnett. But once again, single pin, all that remains. Augustana with 3 single pin misses of their own so far this game. And Barnett keeps the 9 miscount at 6 for Carthage with that spare. Yeah, good cover by Clark. Huge shot here for Hristakos. If she can get a double on the board, and she does. No chances for any doubles for players for Augustana, but they're going to have a chance to set something up with their bottom 3 players here. Hristakos having a heck of a game so far for Carthage. 4 strikes, 4 spares, and if you're going to get strikes, put them together in doubles. And that ball read a little early for Garner. And with the 4-6, time to just take one. And almost pulled off the Tom Doherty there for Topham. Had a 2-8. 8 fell forward and almost took the 2 down. Those of you who remember watching the championship match of the PBA World Championship, that's how Doherty locked up the $100,000 in his first major title. And that's errant losing count at this point in time in the game. Your odds are 1,000 to 1 on that 4-6 conversion. Get a stick, walk away, and leave the damage to a minimum. And another, that's a 7th single pin miss for Carthage. Wow. They could be running away with this game at this point. I mean, it would, I wouldn't say it'd be over, but if they made 6 of the 7, I mean, they're up 80 pins with 2 frames to go. That's going to be a tough offseason to take for Carthage if it ends right here with this game, with all those single pin misses. Quality toss by Alexis Munch. And the 4-9 for Highland. That's going to be a tough one to take right now. I think the coach is just going to tell Highland to take one. Yep, Zwiefelhofer, I think, yeah, you got to take the one right now. You got your other team working on a couple of strikes with Munch and Keys striking for the Vikings. And she gets the one in this match. Is swung in 1 frame. Over to the Augustana Vikings as we have 3 open frames on the board with a double for Carthage. Only 1 open frame on the board and 3 chances to double on the board for Augustana. So let's just basically give Augustana a 25-pin lead at this point in time. And if we get doubles out here from either Buffington in the leadoff spot, Munch in the 4 spot, or Keys in the 5 spot for the Vikings, it's going to be a tough 10th frame for Carthage to come back. And there it is. Great toss by Buffington. And you see Carthage coming back into the picture. Coach Katie Zwiefelhofer took her team to the side. And mind the ladies, you got to focus. You got to gut it up right now. You have no room for error. And that's fast for Catalano. But the 1-2. That needs help. And once again, the angles these ladies are using, you're not seeing the washouts you'd see if it was, let's say, collegiate men or a lot of quality PBA players, even some not so quality PBA players. With the angles they'd use, a little sharper back end motion. And they would easily leave that 10-pin combined with the 1-2 combo. So, but the thing is, when you leave the head pin the first time, you can't afford to miss it again on ball 2. Wow, and just when you had a chance to get some momentum running for the Vikings, tough conversion here. And that's the only way you can make it. Crossover, have the ball take out the 1 and the 8. And run the student body right for the head pin. And once again, Garner just gets that one to read a little early. That looked a little tentative on the ball speed as well. And lucky, and we're not going to get a rollover on that 4 pin for Hristakos. But Hristakos has held in that team all game long, keeping her score sheet clean. A couple of doubles up there for Carthage. Oh no. And someone needs to stop the bleeding for the Vikings. They could have had match in hand. And they're slowly having it fade away back towards Carthage. And how about that? Carthage filling frames and getting back into the lead. If Munch here in the 4 spot for the Vikings can double here, and if Keys can do it in the 5th spot, that may be enough momentum to keep the Vikings on pace. And the 6 goes around the 10 on that high shot. And the shot of the day to this point for Emma Topham. Forget about what you did the last 2 misses. Get out there and fill that score sheet up. In the 9th and 10th, help your team out. Munch, that needs a lot of help. That needs to hit a shopping mall. Get over the 10 pin, doesn't do it. Wow, cannot believe the wheels are falling off for the Vikings right now. Highland, can't worry too much about that. Put 9 spare on the board. Carthage walks into this 10th frame clean on the board. They're going to be up by 40 pins. And there's the angle we talked about. You get a little more angle on the shot. You're going to leave that 10 pin for the washout. It's a must make. You got to tell her to go for it if you're a coach. It's a must make right now. Otherwise, your team's going to be down 40 pins going into the 10th frame, and that's not easy to make up. That's going to require a couple of your teammates to double in the 10th. Give it a shot, and 1 on the count. Yeah, you're going to lose a couple pins right now, but that mark was so huge at this point. I mean, 4 opens on the bottom 4 bowlers in the 9th frame for the Vikings, and right now they're basically down 35 pins. They got the double working for Buffington. She's going to need to extend on that. But right now, if you're Carthage, you got to figure if you can mark every player in the 10th frame, you're going to walk out of here and get in the championship match, and you're going to get a break like that. That's going to help matters for sure. As Emily Catalano puts the first one on the board for Carthage in the 10th frame. Can Buffington match it? No, she cannot. You got to cover this up, though. You got to keep putting pressure on the opponent. Heck, you just showed bottom 4 bowlers can open on a team. Your team just did it. Nothing that says that Carthage can do the same thing. Wow. How many pennies got dropped in that well? Because that's going to it twice now in the 10th for Catalano. And that's huge right now. Especially if Buffington fails to convert. Buffington gets the 2. But with every pin that's felled right now by Carthage, the little bit of daylight starts to fade away. The Augustana Vikings. And Carthage looking to pull another upset. They did it in the first round of this event against number 3 Elmhurst, looking to do it again here against number 2 Augustana. Once again, Marian University waiting in the wings. The 1C of the event. Good fill toss by Buffington, throws 191 up on the board. And a quality toss by Melissa Barnett. She doubles in the 10th there. Coach might forgive her a little bit about one of the 2 single pins that were missed. I wouldn't forgive her on both. Let's be honest. You see so many matches that are affected by single pin misses from the top level of bowling all the way down to your Saturday morning junior leagues. Showing up clutch, Abigail Clark in the 10th, matching her opponent. But they're still down by 45 pins. Barnett, smart thing to do here, just get the 2. Every pin on the board counts right now, as close as the count is. If Clark here can strike again in the 10th, could see a little more daylight for the Vikings. Big toss. And everything fights, but nothing takes the 7 down. And don't lose the count, and you lose 1 pin there. So right now, Carthage up 43 pins with 3 players to go. Another strike to start the 10th for a player for Carthage, this time with Ristakos. They did it last week, closing fast on Aurora to take that match. And they're taking advantage of filling all those frames in the 9th frame as a team. Ristakos looking for the double, gets it. And how about that? Freshman in the 3-hole puts up 220. Any coach in the world would take that out of the 3-hole player right now. I don't care what level you're at for NCAA, 1, 2, or 3. And there's a crossover for Garner. Trying to keep it close. And close it. Oh, the smash 7. Close it out with 29 in the 10th, though, for Ristakos. And a big 225 game. That 3-hole coming in clutch for Carthage. And this is going to be a big shot coming up, too, for Emma Topham, because she's working on a strike in the 9th, and if she strikes in the 10th, it's pretty much lockjaws, especially with no double for Garner in the 10th. Oh, another smash 7. Got to make the spare, though. I mean, commentator's never black cloud, but you can't miss 4 single pins in the game, right? It's impossible. They say it's impossible. I don't know. But this is going to be her biggest conversion of the day to this point for Emma Topham. Yeah, that pin may or may not matter at the rate it's going. And it's looking like it's may not, especially if we get a spare here from Topham. It's pretty much going to be get the fill ball and then have Highland keep the shot on the lane. Even that's going to force doubles in the 10th for Munch in the 4-hole, Keys in the 5-hole for the Vikings. Let's see what Munch can do here. Trying to bounce back off the single pin miss. Gets the 6 to fall forward, but nothing can get to the 10. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, is just requiring a couple of shots on the lane here for Carthage, and they are going to advance to the championship match against Marian University. Once again, Marian coming in through the winner's bracket, so they would have to lose twice to lose out on their chance of taking the CCIW Women's Bowling Conference Championship title. And they're going to have a little extra time to win it too, because once again, our next match is not just this traditional 5-player game, but it's going to also have the total of 5 Baker games, and that was a bit unusual. The ball goes between the 5 and the 6 on deflection, and something paralyzes the 6-pin. All right, and this one's over. This one is over. Keeping it on the lane for Highland. So here's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are watching live. We're going to end this feed. You're going to see another feed come up on the 10 on the deck page shortly for the championship round match as Highland wraps it up. And you're going to see number 1 Marian versus number 6 Carthage coming up next here on 10 on the deck Productions. Once again, I want to thank CCIW for letting us live stream this championship here today from Castle Lanes and Racine. We'll see you back here shortly on 10 on the deck.